Cognitive orientation. So we talked about those 4 different orientations that a child language might have and which need attention from a functionalist perspective. So what is the cognitive orientation? Cognitive orientation would mean paying attention to the specific message or the construction of the message itself. So over here, Slobin's work in 1985 is reminiscent of the same perspective. It focuses on basic child grammar, and he asserts that all the children do not have the capacity to learn the complex forms of grammar. So there has to be some sort of innate capability within the children that somehow facilitates the learning of the grammatical forms. However, the learning of the grammatical forms is driven by the motivation to express their meaning. So Slobin argues that children construct their own form-function relationship. And when they construct this form-function relationship, that is, they choose a specific grammar form to express their own meaning, that form-function relationship might not be the same as used by adult speakers of the first language. So they have their own understanding of how the language works, and they use it by selecting certain forms from the grammar or the grammatical structures that come to them, and they use them to express their meaning. So this language that the child learns actually reflects the child's worldview. It reflects how a child looks at the world. Slobin argues that different grammatical forms are used to express different functions. So different grammatical forms, when they are used by the child, are used to express different functions. For example, let's think of a small child. And this was a study done again by Brown in 1973. And then they realized that when a child says, or a child said, my pencil, and when the child said, Adam's pencil, although for us, if we are not paying attention to the context, the structures might look similar. However, when the child said, my pencil, he wanted to identify that the pencil was his. So he wanted to demonstrate or indicate possession, that pencil is mine. But when the child said Adam pencil, the child actually at that moment did not want to say that the pencil is his or is mine, but he wanted to say he wanted a pencil. Adam, pencil. So Adam wanted a pencil. So although if we look at grammar or form, we might say he's using his name because he's not, somehow he slips through, his language is not fully functional to allow him to use my. However, he was performing 2 different functions with similar forms. And this is exactly what is the point of a functionalist approach. And again, we have put over here the example of Daddy Hid. So it's not about grammar, it's not about adjectives, it's not about nouns, it's about what the child wants to say, and he wants to point out an agent, and he wants to point out an action that is being undertaken. So the functionalist approach argues that formal categories like the grammar is devised to explain adult language use are not appropriate for explaining how the child develops his or her first language. So over here, the functionalist approach might be more helpful than trying to understand the child's use of verbs, nouns, adjectives, or adverbs. That does not really help much in understanding the language learning system of a child. And this is the main argument of the functionalist approach.